Yeah. So let me just state out loud, the agenda for today is to uncover why you are participating in this project and why this project needs to exist. And we'll call it gratitude-based learning.
Sure.
And we want to end up understanding those important things. And of course, it's okay to talk about the what and how as well. But
right.
Yeah, the deviation Onora versus gratitude-based learning, like I think for you, it comes from the same place. What is that place for you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was never really engaged on that level with Onora, and not in the beginning.
Yeah,
because that was Adam's space, and he was doing some stuff for students and what else he has had of activities. It wasn't really something I was interfering with at that point. So we were just jumping into that leading with log training at that point, and so there was something in that space that triggered positively, not quite sure actually what that was, but sometimes that's just that thing that clicks, right? And so you have that feeling that you're comfortable in that space, and something is pulling you forward. And it's not that I actually sat down and made analytics about that, but I think it comes down to that it is touching on something that's bigger than little Henrik, right? It's something that has a potential that's rather big, actually. And so what that is, that's a very good question, but I think it's that future that's calling. That's the best that I could put it, actually. Not quite sure what that is, but it's there's something that wants to unfold. Okay, and that's what I'm sensing. And okay, could I be part of that? Wow, isn't it? So yeah, could I contribute here? I think there's something fulfilling in that. If you can be part of something that's bigger than you, you're having that sensation that you're how to say, you're worth something in that space, right? Whatever talent or gift it is that you're providing, it's fulfilling on some level, right? So I found to be myself useful in that space, and so when I'm having that sensation, okay, I'm in, right? And I don't think that's really much different if we're talking about a farm where I was working, or with machinery, or in the forest, or in the farm, or in business, or in job situations. When you have that sensation, I think that's something to me that really nourishes me. So yeah, having that privilege to being allowed to work with things and develop it, figures things out. It's a discovery, right? It wasn't okay, go into a factory, do this, do that, right? Just robotic work, right? There's a creative space to it, where okay, we didn't quite know what to call it, didn't quite know what it was, but that discovery process was really exciting. And then the other part is, when I get to engage with people, holding space for them, and allowing them to go through a process of discovery or evolving, that's highly fulfilling as well, right? And so I've had, I don't know how many wonderful experiences with so many people, in the program itself, but also outside as a Psych-K facilitator, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing when you see people opening up and wanting to address this or that. So that's definitely part of why this space was interesting.
Yeah, I hear these are like your personal reasons for why it works for you. Could you, when you talk about almost like being in service to something that looks like it's got momentum into a particular direction, can you be specific about what inspires, like what direction is that you see? Like, do you have any clues as to, like, you could be a part of a lot of projects, Henrik. But there's something about, maybe it's when you're in the spaces facilitating, you hear people's stories, or when you hear Adam say ripple effects and it's like the World Bank of Favors sort of thing. Like, do you have any more specifics as to like what those things are that make you feel like this has a bigger future and that you can be of service to it, and you're willing to, you want to?
That part of being of service absolutely is also something important to me, without a doubt. I'm not here for fame or anything like that, not at all. To be honest, also having an income, I mean, as trivial as it sounds, that's a really important part. If it wasn't there, we would have had to, or on my end, I would have had to quit long time ago, right? Yeah. So there's that element, but that's not fulfilling, right? That's just covering basic needs. But it's just a real tangible issue, right, as well. But when we're talking about what's driving you, if I were to think about if there was something here that we would take out and now I wouldn't feel nourished anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. If that would be, if I weren't able to engage with people, right? In that facilitation, one-on-one or with smaller groups or larger groups, that element of being able to provide something that has some kind of value for somebody, right? If we took that element out, okay, I would feel, okay, I could still be useful in so many ways, but it wouldn't be fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm just a soundboard for Adam, and he can really use this of let's say, look at things from I can ask a bunch of questions and help him see things from many different directions. As we are so different, right? It's really nourishing the way we see things so differently. But if it's only left to that, that wouldn't be enough for me to feel that here there's something I can contribute with. Here's a place where I could grow. So yeah, definitely, it's that personal interaction.
Yeah.
Even though it's online.
So, yeah.
It's as best as it gets for now.
Yeah. So I feel like those are more abstract reasons for why you do it. You want to, well, they're not. They're unspecific to the project, really. There's a higher purpose. You can be of service, and you get to do it in a way that is with people, real people who you facilitate, interact with, and witness their growth and their appreciation, and to them, that's very satisfying. What is it about the vision of Onora, or of gratitude-based learning, that is compelling in that way, that you feel like it's truly valuable or healing or helpful?
I think it is the holistic approach that we really have, or at least on my end, I'm coming in with this idea of really trying to connect the dots. When you have a given situation, you could see, okay, this connects to here, and that's that. if you look a little closer, there's always so many other things that are contributing or part of that situation, whether you see it as a problem or a world situation in general. Okay, try to understand anything in the world. It's much more, there's much more to it than what just meets the eye. And so what's in this program that I really like about it is that we are putting in so many aspects into what this really is, that it feels like to me that we are describing reality on some level. Okay, we're definitely going beyond just the thank you, right? We are looking into, okay, what's something that's needed to get to that next level of what you could call evolution. That's where I'm coming from. I'm really trying to see, okay, what's needed to go beyond, like Einstein, he said this thing about, okay, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness. Okay, so we need to grow our consciousness. Okay, how do you do that? Okay, now it really starts to involve a lot of factors in that space. And what's really intriguing for me is that I think we are on something here. We're onto something that goes way beyond most of other things that I've witnessed anywhere or heard about, because we have that approach where we really try to not be exclusive about this has to be only from A to B. No, there's a C and a D as well, right? And many of these dynamics are, the best way I try to describe it is it's not that linear thinking. A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D. No, what happens in D affects A, right? What happens in B affects D, and so that's really, really interesting for me to try to look at things and include all of those in finding an approach where, okay, that we need to hold space in all of this in order to be able to really get beyond the level of thinking where we used to be, right? And so, how could I say it otherwise than that it's really bloody intriguing to be part of something like that, And I sometimes use that metaphor, or what do you call it, that the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It's that transition. And it has something to do with how we see ourselves. It has something to do with the story that we tell ourselves. It has something to do with, how you use your genes, so to say, right? And there's so much potential in there that we haven't tapped into, right? The caterpillar had the potential to be a butterfly. It didn't know it, I don't think. It happened at a certain point. There's things happening automatically, but still, there's more to it as far as I know. And so, okay, when does humans understand that they have potential to become that butterfly? And so it's not, we don't have to stay in that level of caterpillar. And that's a realization. And okay, it was so beautifully described in that, what the bleep do we know? Do you know that movie?
No.
What the bleep do we know? That was fantastic. And there was this, okay, the world was at some point two-dimensional, so to say, right? You had all the characters playing out a story in a two-dimensional world, right? And somebody outside telling you, hey, there's a three-dimensional. And those characters were afraid to go from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, right? And so, same story, same characters, but now they are functioning on a completely different level, sharing their story on a completely different level, because they are now 3D. And that leap between going from 2D to 3D is absolutely frightening, right? Because you have no idea what 3D is until you're there, right? And try to explain somebody in a 2D world what 3D is. That's a tough one, right? And so I think there's something out there that needs to call you. There's something you need to tap into. There's something calling you, or pulling you, or wanting you to get into that next level. And I think what we're really doing in this program is, could we hold space for that transition, which is frightening, scary, and people are reluctant and whatever, right? Could we actually do that in a state of love rather than being pushed to it? Because, okay, the world is ending resources, and you have all that belong to that old level. That's I think it's almost, in my opinion, required if you want to reach that level. It has to go through love. I don't think you can really get there if it happens in a state of fear and competition and frustration and that. And so finding ways to make that happen is okay. You can't find anything that speaks more to me than that. So I think that's why I'm engaged in this, because I think we are on something here. Okay, it's still in molding, it's still taking shape, right? But I think we are putting in some of the ingredients that's needed to make that happen.
This is so good, Henrik. I've never heard you speak to it this way. It almost helps me make sense of all the times you take a clip from somewhere or reshare something. You're like, something is happening here. Something different is happening here. And when you tie it together with your Einstein quotes, do you see this project as a way to explore and encourage that transition, like expanding a new framework of consciousness that will allow us to evolve into more dimensions of reality?
I don't think it's my job to tell people what to do or what to do with this that we are providing.
Yeah.
And could I tell that story in a way that it's attracting to people, attracting people to see that possibility? Wow, I would be proud if I could do that. But bringing gratitude-based learning as an instrument, a modality, a tool to people where they can just improve basic life, make it work on let's say the 2D dimensional level.
Yeah.
Okay, we have improved quite a lot. Okay, going to the third, I don't know when, let's say, the broader humanity is ready for that. It might happen in installments. If it happens in my lifetime, I'm not quite sure, but it would be wonderful. So in the meantime, okay, what would be something that people would like to see happen privately, personally, on a family level, in companies, right? The workplace right now is killing people, right? The mentality, etc. We see so many suffering. Not well, before we used to suffer on a physical level, right? It was really tough just to have enough to eat, right? There was conflicts and wars on a completely different level than today. If we think we have trouble today, it's just because we are out of perspective. And I think the news is putting it in our faces, so we have a different perception that there's wars and conflicts all over. It's actually haven't been as peaceful as like never before these last 30 years. But anyway, that's perception, right? Okay, so what's happening today? People are suffering on something else. Okay, it seems like, okay, we've never really gone beyond that suffering. Okay, even though we're comfortable, we are having all these commodities, people are just suffering something different. Health in many ways, and then we are lonely like never before, mental problems. So could we just learn to function on the level where we are? Okay, that might create some kind of foundation, in my humble opinion, that could lead us to, okay, let's go to the next level. Let's, when we feel ready to it, whether you might call that spiritual level, evolving consciously, but yeah, it's for me is it's like evolution. You had all of these individual cells that formed at some point, and then you had amoebas, and we ended up having this body, right? It's actually 50 trillion cells working together in under our skin, right? And they are as individual, those cells, as you and me. So what will be the next level is that humans come together in one body called humanity, and that's to get there. It really takes a new level on the mind, right? Understanding that you and me, we are same, right? These cells here underneath, they need to understand that they are same. They're not different. They are one. It's this oneness conception, right? Okay, so we have human bodies all over the place. Okay, could you get to that real understanding that, okay, if I'm hurting you, I'm hurting myself, right? So that's an evolution on another level, concept and mentally wise, that it might take some time to get there, I would say. But could we learn to just create some workspaces that would nourish us instead of depleting us energy wise? Could we learn to come together in local communities, helping each other out? Wouldn't that just be amazing? We could come to that access energy mentally as well. When it's you start to see the world through a gratitude based lens, wow, everything shifts, right? And so what's possible from that? Okay, that's I'm not telling people you have to do like this, you have to do like that. It's telling that story in a way that's inviting to people. So that's, I would really like to avoid, making a dogma or things like that. You have to do like this. We need to go there. And it has to be voluntarily.
Like,
hold it.
it's invitational, gratitude-based learning.
Mm-hmm.
Is some of that invitationality, it seems like the invitationality, or the invitational nature of what you're talking about is actually embedded in your mindset about what it is you're doing as is. Like the rigid forcing or prescription of a modality is part of the problem, or per se part of what gratitude-based learning is looking to replace or grow beyond.
Could you elaborate on what it is that you're comparing an old regime, or could you please elaborate?
Yeah. So you say we can't solve the problem with the same level of consciousness that we're in that created it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it sounds like gratitude-based learning and this project and this group is an exploration about what a different form of consciousness could look like in your opinion. And you don't know exactly what that is. We don't, because none of us are in this other consciousness completely. But we know there's got to be a different form of consciousness. So you're exploring that. And the interesting thing is that there's a tendency to maybe bring it back down to the initial level of consciousness. And it also has to come down to that level in order to be adopted. But there are certain things that you don't want to have married with it from this 2D consciousness, because, and part of that is the forcing or the regiment and the prescriptionality of it. And it seems like the idea of like collaborative, invitational is not only part of the development process, but maybe actually part of the consciousness in general. Because for some things, it's really important to be open-minded, curious, and then when it coalesces together, more regimented and more descriptive as it reveals what it is. Kind of like the chrysalis is what you're talking about, right? There's a distinct caterpillar. Then there's a chrysalis, which is indistinct, and it's hard to say what is even going on in there. And then there's a very distinct butterfly. And so there's two things I'm kind of trying to tease out, if that analogy is appropriate here, is that there's a new level of being and consciousness that in which we may find alleviation to many modern day problems, which is that our work is not really fulfilling for people right now. And there's just a new suffering replacing a new suffering, despite more technologies and psychological tools that we've implemented. However, there's a place where those might not exist, and we'll call that the butterfly stage. And we're on the ground as a caterpillar right now. To become a chrysalis, maybe gratitude-based learning is a process that is undefined, and you have to let go of being defined and forcing and stuff, and it has to be invitational by nature in order to enter that phase. And I guess my question as well to you is that the end goal may end up being relatively well defined and clear, or the end goal, if there's an end goal, wherever the exploration is going, is it inherently invitational and undefined and less regimented and less abstracted? And is it more uncertain in general, or is it really important to embrace that in the phase of the chrysalis?
I can absolutely tell you that so many people who are part of this program or movement or community somehow, they are really struggling with the fact that we don't have everything defined.
Yeah.
They want us to give them the answer of what is right and wrong. Okay. They expect us to have that, let's say, certainty or vision or clarity or, answers. And I think that's, like you said, it belongs to the old world of where, okay, there's hierarchy. Adam and Henrik, they are on the top of the pyramid and they need to tell. And I think you're really close when you're saying that, hey, if we did that, okay, we would not enter into the right direction. And the best way that I normally try to go about this is the collective consciousness is much more wise than any individual. And so what we really hope is to tap into what, let's say, in the community of all the people involved, together we come up with something that's bigger and better. The vision, when you have all of these inputs from so and so many people, different talents, that's when that future starts to be much better defined, because it's not what Henrik thinks or Adam. We may have the most brilliant ideas, but okay, this is a collective process getting there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So yeah. Do we still need to meet people where they are at and give them something tangible and practical? Absolutely. And I think that's one of the advantages that I think in this program. Okay, you can go out there and find so many gurus that will talk about that new 3D level, right? Okay, but how to get there, right? And so it's not enough to just provide information. You also need to be on that 2D level, practicality, how to go about it, right? And you need that space for practicing. And this is to me, the best part about the program is that we have those spaces where we dare to be vulnerable and share that friction with another and hold that space for one another, because that process, that frightening process of change, right? We need to realize, look at ourselves. Okay, this is not who I want to be. This is not where I want to go. That's hurtful or painful in many ways. And so we need to be out there and have that direction of where to go with things. but we also need to know how to do it on a really practical level.
Yeah.
You're touching in on this thing about, how can I put it? It's I dare say the process will naturally go in that direction. Okay. If you are on a spiritual journey, raising consciousness, any of those things, I don't really see that people can go in so many different directions. If you enter the process, you will be drawn toward that direction, right? Kindness, care for one another, humility, all those good attributes will happen naturally once you start to work with these dynamics. I don't see anybody, let's say we start getting curious with one another in the workspace, right? We really want to understand what's going on with our colleague or with our boss or with our somebody from another department within the company. We start getting curious because we want to understand. That's basic level of gratitude-based learning, right? Okay. To me, it is absolutely impossible to do that without it naturally leading to some level of care, because you get to know that other person. When you start to know that other person, you will naturally start to care. Okay, it will naturally start to put it into a better collaboration. We're creating those relationships. It is moving towards that elevation. It happens automatically. I don't think you could actually avoid it. Okay, you can absolutely step out. I'm leaving this company. I'm not part of this anymore, because there's too much friction. Somebody was not able to hold space for you. The process went too fast or whatever. Okay. But if we are there and we are authentically trying to get to that feeling of gratitude, allowing for somebody else to feel seen, heard, valued, appreciated, you will naturally generate those emotions within yourself. You will be on a spiritual journey, whether you know it or not. And so it's happening automatically. I don't think we need to actually. I don't think we have to describe it as such, but it may come by itself. I'm not quite sure about what's the story we could tell and how we could tell it. What is it that speaks to people? And maybe different stories are needed, not just one, right? One that meets people on this level and people on that level, people that are doing this. I mean, if you're talking to farmers, you'll need to speak in a certain language, right? If you're talking to academics, it's a different kind of language, right? It's meeting people where they are and finding that story that speaks to people. And it might be the same message at the end, but how it's brought, how it comes across may be different, right? And I think it's a universal human feeling, that thing of wanting to be part of something that's bigger than yourself, that sense of belonging in a community, that sense of feeling seen, heard, valued, etc. That's universal in any human. And what comes from that? Okay, I don't think I have an imagination that's good enough to imagine what could happen if we really got to that state first.
That's a great state of humility and curiosity.
Well, I would really love to find out, huh?
Yeah. It seems like that's a big part of the why you're involved in this project.
Absolutely.
I may offer another analogy, something that just visually came into my mind when hearing you talking, is that, when you say if you can't help but if you go on what you're calling a spiritual journey, that there's not many directions. It actually looks like it's kind of pointing more clearly into one sort of direction. And when people get attracted to the gratitude-based learning program, they are clearly already becoming attracted to that similar thing. So it's almost like there's little bits of this awareness and path everywhere, but then like droplets, when they meet, they form a bigger puddle, a little bigger droplets until they're a little puddle. And it seems like gratitude-based learning is collecting into a little puddle here. There are other puddles of the same nature. And I'm curious if you can use that analogy and talk about some things that you see are also doing it in a similar way, that have this same directionality to it, where people are collecting into these puddles, and it may be the same energy that one day, like, oh, gratitude-based learning actually is the same thing as this. And it's in essence like the work that we're doing for GBL is collecting more people, refining something, and it will be more refined with something else. Like, what are these other, have you seen it? Do you think you have a sense for other areas that this is happening in, and maybe other projects? Or do you think you could distill down, is it kindness? Is that one of the things that it is the nucleation sites for all of this? Is it like, where does it come from, and where do you see similar things, and where is it going?
There's so many people out there doing their thing, right? Whether it's that doctor in India, famous guy, whether it's Joe Dispenza, there's all these people that are finding something that, whether they call it gratitude or whether they call it something else, they found something that speaks to them, right? There's a happiness, and then you can define that, even purpose. I don't want to say that anything is better than anything else. Absolutely not, because it's like that collective thing that I was talking about. Okay, if we are all contributing with what it is that speaks to us, okay, together it's going to be much better, because it consists of so many different things. I'm wondering if we're trying to, if what we're trying to do is figure out something that speaks to people for the purpose of getting them engaged, or are we trying to give some sort of answer to people for what this is, or or are we trying to still figure out why we are doing this? Because there might be some differences there. If we go back to where, when my energy absolutely shoots up, that's when we are in that space of creating something. And to me, when you're talking about these other things, people that are out there doing their stuff, I don't see. We are right now in a process, right? And he comes from that leadership development space, and all the words are in that competition, right? It's the old world thinking that created that program, that's for sure. But any of those that you might be thinking about that are doing something similar at graduate-based learning, I don't see them as competition at all. This is collaboration. Could we somehow help them? Could they somehow help us? That would be the next level of, hey, this is not about us being graduate-based learning in the whole wide world. We need to be dominant and we need to be us. And no. Okay, could we have somebody else take the best of graduate-based learning and use it in their space? Give it their own twist and tweak? Wow. Wouldn't that just be amazing? Could we hopefully be allowed to use some of their greatest stuff so we could make this even better? That's what I'm looking for. If I could find somebody that has that, what you might say, open source mindset, this idea of collaborating. And I have been disappointed quite a few times when we're reaching out to people. The first thing they do is, okay, I want to know all about you, but I'm not sharing mine. Right? And okay, that tells me, sorry, okay, you're some person that thinks you are really advanced. No, not really, right? And so if we were to find common ground with somebody, okay, that's when we are not afraid any longer. Okay. When you are interacting for the better of everybody, now we are on the same page. Okay. And so that's still rather hard to find out there. They can be talking about whatever high level stuff that they believe in, but okay, if it comes down to, could you help share, help us grow, please use us, then that's what makes the difference. And so okay, should you look for somebody out there and say, could we is that similar to graduate-based learning? I think that would be the threshold that I would use to, and then I don't care really what they're doing, but if they have that mindset, this is collaboration, okay, then okay, then we aligned.
That really fascinating response, Henrik. Because this came from puddles analogy, and it's like, which puddles where do you see it being able to merge?
Mm-hmm.
And collaboration is literally the ability to merge. And yep. You're saying we're not better or worse or comparing our protocols, but actually there is discernment being made all the time by you and Adam about what this isn't. There are things, there are ways in which you have to be critical and post your judgment on what it is that you're holding to be so sacred in the creation of this project. And whereas most people might look at what it is they are talking, you're more concerned about how they're walking.
Yeah.
You're more concerned with how the beautiful and alluring principles of consciousness are actually being embodied by that group.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. It's okay. I'm going to just take a personal moment here. It's what makes the world of health and wellness so frustrating to me. And spirituality, particularly in Austin, is that it seems like it is a continuation of opportunistic capitalism and egoic self-absorption, as opposed to actually what the whole point of the tools, the technologies, the spiritual practices were meant for in the first place.
So could I ask you what you think it is that's causing that or preventing going beyond that? if you try to think of just a figurative person, you don't have to share who or what, but that's, you know, people in that space.
Yeah.
Just try to zoom in on somebody you know. What's going on in their little world that's preventing this from happening, that next growth level? If you are them, what's the way you see the world?
One reason is social inertia.
Mm-hmm.
Like the nucleation, the bubble, the drop of dew happens where they're like, oh, there's a way for this to change and be different. But things take time, and we want to belong, and we want to make sense of the world, and it's very very challenging and filled with uncertainty and energy when this new really illustrious thing can't fit in with a lot of the old ways of being that are very like deeply carved grooves.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard for me. Like I love making music and exploring I guess you could say these tools of consciousness. And the immediate thing is like, how can we make this a sustainable experience that fits within the world of capitalism? Or how can I feel more understood even in explaining it? And so by the time you're explaining it, you're already kind of moving it back into things that have a lot of society's inertia. And then it can get trapped into deeper grooves that actually aren't suitable. Like these are great tools, and a lot of other organizations are great tools, but they're also maybe have a lot of inertia as to what a business is, what an organization needs to look like and needs to do. And so they immediately make decisions of putting this new thing into the old box so that they know that they can keep working on it. The tools they're familiar with are competitive, are very marketing, are finding ways to compartmentalize, understand, and communicate it, when, as you and Adam say, like it's a half-baked cookie. We don't even know. Like that's the whole point, is that we don't know. When in marketing and in the leadership styles of the past, like the most important thing is to have the answer.
Right.
And where you can have an answer. Gratitude-based learning can have the answer, and the answer can be, it's unhelpful to have an answer right now. That resolves some uncertainty, but not, at this point, we're at a tilting phase. Like there's a lot of pressure and uncertainty with the circumstances of life as is and trying to make sense of things. Like we're in an uncertain time, so it feels. And like giving someone an answer that's only satisfying for a month or two, and then the reality of the uncertainty comes back, is like the average between being there is now approaching the same average as we don't know what to do, but we know that we don't know what to do. Like we don't know what to do is here. And that's where everyone gets to in the amount of uncertainty. And then someone comes in with an answer. And that helps for a while, and then it just kind of comes back, and they just oscillate here. So the average is somewhere here. But in telling people we don't know what to do, but we know that we don't know what to do, it's like lowering it. And at some point, we don't know the answer is gonna, and we have a little bit more understanding, it's gonna start beating out the alternative of taking some person's very clearly defined answer that fits into the box of everything they used to know. There's just, so when you ask, if I were to summarize it, what is it that's stopping the growth from being real? I think it's the collective inertia of societally reinforced constructs in our mind that don't want to be reshaped right off the bat. Like, I think it is a natural process for it not to be like the exploding of a dam. Like, blowing someone's mind is not really the best answer for leaving them in a curious and safe place to come up or to uncover the new thing that's a little bit more certain, the butterfly. You know, at some point it will be easier for us to describe what this is.
Right.
But don't jump the gun, because jumping the gun is either like a very transitory experience of satisfaction that ends up not resolving it, or blowing up the entire dam and then having no grounding to actually consolidate what that belief is. Which is kind of like how, analogously, some people who, you know, one way to dissolve lots of mental constructs is to go and travel and do some psychedelics. And you will break down a lot of those constructs and see things differently. But if they don't actually get integrated into your life and in a practical way back in the 2D, you end up kind of in this fantasy land that really has a hard time congealing and crystallizing down into anything concrete, which in the end, I think it will go there. And you end up floating around a world of very distracting conspiracy theories and a rejection of other people, and it started embodying actually some of the older constructs that were not being very supportive, just in a different way.
Could I ask you a question? If you're imagining these people that you know out there, they had this vision or wanted to do stuff, but living it out is much tougher, right?
Yes.
Are they consciously aware that they are not living it out? Do they have that awareness? That's the first question. Okay. Because, okay, you can have this goal and you can really want to go there, and you can be consciously aware that you're falling short, right? Or you can, I don't know to what level do people dare to admit that? Or it's something that you say, but you don't really mean it. Also happens.
Yeah.
And then the question is, okay, because we still live in the 2D world, so to say, we need to make a business because, okay, reality is we need to make money. And so we surrender to that process reluctantly or happily because, okay, everybody wants to be rich, right? Even though you're spiritual, okay, so much nicer to have X number of millions of dollars, right? So it's really that question: are people consciously aware that, you know, they are not really putting it into practice? This thing about collaboration, this about sharing, open source, is the default of the business mindset happening really consciously? That, okay, we haven't got an alternative, so we do this. And the last one is, to what degree do you think that this is actually just fear-based, right? Because if we've been grown up in that world where it's competition, it's individualism, it's not, okay, and now making that shift, okay, you need to really trust that somebody will have your ass when you need it, right? If you're there sharing, you found the golden egg or whatever, sharing that might just be triggering all of these instincts that we have, that, hey, somebody's going to screw me, somebody's going to exploit me. How can I trust that somebody will hold space for me when I need it, or support, right? That's my theory, at least, that the reason why is because at the end of the day, we have a very deep program back there. No, I need to make sure that I can survive. And so fear is Adam, he's spot on there, leading with love instead of fear. Yep, you guys, you really nailed it. And so that's why I think that gratitude-based learning really have something rather special, because we have a tool in Psyche that can go there and address those things, right? Because other one, okay, you're just trying consciously to work again, swim against the current. That one back there, if you don't get that one in alignment, okay, you need to wait a few generations before you have a chance to even shift a little bit. Those are questions that I put out, but I think that's, if you're asking me why we have something that's different, okay, in this process, okay, we have that community, we have that support, we even have a tool for how to change those subconscious obstacles from actually living it. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
What do you see if you look at all of your experiences and all of your contacts with people out there? What's really needed?
To be truly honest, I am not only trying to develop and implement gratitude-based learning in my life, but I'm also auditing it. And I put balance to all sides. And I had a really good moment with Adam in our call. He showed me the stages that he's expressed, being the flight, you're just not even present, frozen, fight, fix, find out, find in. And when I saw that, it felt like there was a better place to be. And there was now again polarity, like you want to be at this end point. And I wanted to test that, because obviously my own personal experience in my relationship, I was trying very actively and openly to implement gratitude-based learning within my conflicts and relationship. And I guess on the outset of the relationship, I wondered if I was actually helping myself by doing it sometimes. And there was a genuinity in there that I think I was being a little bit performative in a way, like a lack of genuinity, maybe. Like I really, really want for myself to not be triggered right now. And I am aware that I'll get better information if I ask questions instead of tell. However, I don't think I ever told appropriately. Like, is there a time to communicate with anger? I don't think I think I bypassed myself because of the desire to be someone who, what I thought leading with love was like, which in relationship to the people who we're talking about, who may be building spiritual capitalism businesses, right? Spiritual enterprises, which you guys are forced to do. It wasn't the main set goal, right? However, they might be really just opportunistic enterprise people who are following a spiritual trend, right? And there's a balance there. And I that's when I feel disgusted and upset and angry, is when I see something potentially really helpful and useful get co-opted by a opportunistic business venture, or an egoic journey for somebody who's just fragile and is trying to self-identify with things they think it's virtue signaling, basically. And I think the businesses are virtue signaling, and both of them are either destructive ego or opportunistic businesses that are still based in things that aren't very helpful, right? And so I'm very critical of that. It feels wrong to me, and I don't speak out about it particularly. I'll make jokes about it, but I don't speak out about it with the starkness that I think I ought to. And in my relationship, I didn't speak out about it. And in a sense, I was being like the opportunistic business, the misaligned business, because my curiosity questions were in conflict with my body. I was physically spinning in my body with anger and sadness. But I didn't want to be there because my judgment was that that's not, I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm going to look like a fool for getting it wrong while yelling and speaking while I'm triggered. And instead, I should just calm down. And then when I'm in a calm place, I'm not sure I ever had the ability to communicate from there, like with the same starkness, with the same importance to me, the passion. Even in that place, I'm like, oh, I could end up being a fool. You know, I might not know. I'm actually just a curious and humble person again. And I can feel that way, but it does seem like there's an amount of judgment in me for now going through gratitude-based learning. And, you know, I presented this to Adam as like, couldn't you be leading with love instead of fear? And now I'm in a moment of anger where I'm like, I should have been outwardly angry, but I didn't, because I was so attached to the idea of what leading with love looked like. It looked like being curious and humble and open and compassionate. And now I'm kind of disgusted with how much I didn't protect myself. And I even invited in more sort of like giving to something that was taking unfairly from me. So I illustrate this analogy between myself in relationship and opportunistic businesses because there seems to be in the moments of pain for me, a lack of alignment and integrity with talking and walking. Like my body as a being was angry, and my mind was like, I know better than that. I'm more evolved than my body. And these businesses who are inappropriately being extractive, opportunistic businesses based around spirituality, they're doing that. They're out of integrity because the tools of spirituality are very much in conflict. But kind of what we're saying is that it's all kind of in conflict as you bring these things within the current construct. So there's a huge nuance and a balance but in getting that right. And conversations like this are really important in discovering why it is we're doing gratitude-based learning, because it almost comes down to I'm not a fan of the manifestation mindset in a lot of ways, because it means like what I have now is not enough in many ways. So there's an inherent inadequacy in it, and there's a faking it till you make it, like, oh, I'll just act this way even though I do not feel that way, because that's what will help me to change. And so there's the moment of transitionary lack of integrity or lack of genuinity. But like, what is being genuine? And it really gets deeply philosophical in like, I have a desire and I see a vision and a direction of where to go, and how can I go there in a way that isn't so arrogant that actually, like, you know, could hurt or be like, you know, check in with my body. Like, does my body want to go there? No, it doesn't want to go there. It actually, the body can be stuck in pain for a while, and accepting that's really hard. And just like accepting uncertainty is very similar. Uncertainty, it's uncomfortable, it's suffering, it's discomfort. Uncertainty is inherently uncomfortable. It can be expansively, creatively uncomfortable. It can be really painfully uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable, and there's lots of agitation and energy there. And navigating this seems really, really, really complex. It seems really complex, and I still don't know how I could hold myself in future contexts. Right now, I'm like, I'm going to speak angrily just to find out, because I've never done it. But is that leading with fear? Like, there's almost pushback. I don't love this whole love and light mindset. You know, it's not all love and light, especially if it really isn't all love and light for you in the moment and you just want it to be. Like, that makes me feel queasy. So I guess that's all I can really say about it, is that there is maybe there's a kernel that we can see on an analytical level of, you know, I'm just kind of in a chrysalis phase myself. And at some point I'll know how and when to be angry and for it to still be in integrity, or with out of love. But and that's cool, and both can be true, and all can be true. And the opportunistic spiritual, like, you know, people say, like, why would you hate on an organization or a person who's trying to do good? Like, aren't there better things to do than to poke fun at them who are trying to do better, even though they're not, when there are businesses out there that are just openly not doing better? And it's just 10,000 times more aggravating to see the hypocrisy, I guess.
If I can share a little bit of what I'm seeing going on when you put something out like gratitude-based learning.
Yeah.
Okay. People take it and to put it in a nasty term, they masturbate it, right? It really gets, okay, you have this idea, okay, now everything has to be gratitude-based learning. Everything has to be thank yous everywhere, leading with love. It's taking to the extreme, right?
Yeah.
I think somewhere we have, and I think it goes back to the medical way of looking at things. The old medicine doctor hospital mindset is the body is a machine. Okay, if you give it a drug, now it does like that. Okay, it needs to do that in every single body in every single situation, because that was how we saw the universe. The linear way of thinking is related to that. And so I think it's an inheritance from that whenever you put out gratitude, happiness, whatever, part of all of these people putting out something gets taken to that. Now this needs to be an answer to everything.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously not, is what I would say. But it's hard to prevent, right?
Yeah.
Because people are looking for that answer.
Yeah.
You know, companies that Adam is there, right? They get this idea. Okay, now it has to be like that. And so I've tried to say a few times that if you can't say a genuine thank you, don't say it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't fake it, please. Right? If you're angry and upset, or that's why we're checking in with people. Because okay, if you're not coming from a good place, okay, could we, what's beyond and more than gratitude is that it is authentic. Whatever that is, then if that's rage, good. You know, hopefully on my capacity level, I can sit with that and don't go into a fight mode because somebody is raging with me. Okay, that's my evolution. But saying that you need to know love and light and all of that is better, if it's true, right? But if it's not, I would much more prefer that somebody says that, hey, I'm sad or I'm pissed off, or, you know, because that's part of it. It's really an important, you know, okay, we would like to go there in gratitude and love and collaboration and all of that. Okay. There's something that's there. We say it has to be authentic. And if it isn't, please don't fake it.
Yeah.
And And I think if you see that on a bigger scope as well, please don't assume that gratitude-based learning is the only thing that needs to be applied everywhere. I know Adam, he would like to go there, and he can absolutely, if you can come from that place of being curious and just taking in information, good for you, right? But if you're not sharing what you really think, if you disagree or whatever, okay, I don't know when is the right time to share that, but if you're only receiving, gathering information and growing within yourself, it's a disservice to other people, right? Because they have no clue where you are.
Yes.
And all of the things that the goodness that's in you, whether that's a disagreement or an anger or another point of view, if you're holding that back and not finding a space, okay, it's because somebody else hasn't learned to hold space for you, right? And I think that's this we're talking about these levels, right? Okay, in this what you call a crescent period, okay, chrysalis, right? There's not too many people who have learned to hold space for somebody else, right? So we might have this idea, okay, I need to hold space, I need to hold space. Oh, hopefully we'll find somebody who can hold space for us. It's so needed ever so often, right? So definitely this thing about the puddles coming together, really needed, because we don't have the only answer, okay? And the most beautiful example I have for this, there's quite a few, but the one with Charlie, playing in a band, and it was only recently, I mean, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that, he was having trouble holding the bass guitar, right? And so he was complaining about that, and somebody told him, no, you're just out of shape, man, right? Hitting it smack into his face, the raw truth, right? That was probably not gratitude-based learning, you would assume, right? But I think it came from a place of love. That's another story. But the thing is that hitting it hard was what was needed for Charlie in that moment, right? He got upset, right? He was offended, and but yeah, the guy was right. Charlie went to the gym, started working out. He can hang in the bar for 20 breaths. Good guy, right? 70 years old or 71 now, right?
Wow.
And so there's definitely a place and a space and a room for something else than gratitude, because it's not the only thing that works, right? And so that's my biggest fear, I would say. If we are putting out something and people think that, oh, now that's the only answer, right? Okay, kids and parents, okay, ideally we would sit and have these very expansive conversations and understand them and allow them to feel seen and heard, and everything is beautiful. Okay, the ugly truth is that we are not there all the time, and sometimes it's much more important that they learn the hard way, that you don't just run around on the street, and play between the cars. And if you can't understand that, and if I can't make you see and understand that and actually do it, live it out through my compassionate, conversational way, okay, little 2-year-olds, they need to learn things the real way. If you're not doing that, okay, you're doing them a disservice. Okay, and so I was saying in the beginning, there's so many dimensions and parts to this, right? And what I really hope that we can get to include here is some of those other puddles. So that, okay, when not gratitude, then what?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so physical punishment, that'll be the absolute other side of it, right? How could that be done in a way where it's not, let's say, causing damage.
Yeah,
Okay. Could we even imagine that that would be possible?
absolutely. I love that, Henrik. Like there's space for that. Like I've watched mother dogs absolutely get a one of their misbehaving puppies who's attacking and biting the faces of their in alignment, and it's this quick, angry, like nip to their neck and standing of their ground, and then the puppy behaves and the mother just shakes it off, and like that is a very natural sign of like how we can use physical, like, you know, I mean it's not even, it's like physical intervention,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with
Mm-hmm.
anger and force, and to it, like it's taken back, it's not so personal, it's not, it just is corrective. And you know, maybe through our vilification of never doing that, we've actually missed some things.
Mm-hmm.
So I love hearing that there's a way to see the how to stay in integrity amongst all of it.
Mm-hmm.
At any level, you know.
Yep, and then okay, now it really gets dangerous, right? Because if people are still on that plane of taking this to the extreme, oh, now I'll just hit my kids all the time because I know the benefit of that. You see, it's the same problem, right?
Well, it depends on where they're doing it from in many ways,
Yeah,
but yeah.
absolutely. So that's the key. And I can give a really an example from Denmark. There was a teacher that was fired from school. Okay, what was the problem? He had one little black guy in his class. Okay, he told that guy, nigger, my little nigger. Okay, when that came out, that was an outrage, you know. Okay, did you ask the little boy if he felt offended in any way? No. The little boy felt treated as somebody special. Could you imagine? Because the teacher was not coming from a place of hatred or judgment or whatever. He was saying it in a kind way, those words that if you just hear the words from outside, you don't understand the context, you would think that he's a racist, putting that guy down, whatever. No, those two were having fun, right? And that little guy felt special, you know, compared to all the white in his class, right? So, okay, where are you coming from when you're doing it? That's what really determines it. It's not the action itself or the words itself.
Yeah, it's a lot like how I can talk to my dog, and I could say anything in a positive, happy tone. It can be used very manipulatively, obviously. Absolutely. And it's hard. That's when it becomes really hard to decipher. And it can be used in unknowingly manipulative ways as well. But there's just so much richness in this, Henrik. I think this conversation has been fantastic.
Absolutely a joy.
Really fantastic. I think that your why is a lot clearer. Your what it looks like is clearer to me. Even some of the mechanisms for it, it seems this invitational process, this has to be in integrity and can really look like anything. And also the uncertain nature of it is like, we're not going to lie to you and tell you we have all the answers when we know we don't. And also another profound thing is the genuine humility that you have for the scope of the application of what this is applicable for. Like, you know, we don't know exactly, but we feel pretty confident that it's helpful in these areas and probably not helpful in those areas. And people are looking for that one size fits all, give me a belief set, a religion that I can just go and live by and don't have to make any more questions anymore. And we're actually, in gratitude-based learning, it seems like to be one of the principles is that it's okay to be uncertain. It's really okay to not know. And getting more comfortable with that will help us. And it's not going to be forever. Like, you know, we need a higher tolerance for uncertainty, but also there will be some certainties to come at some point. But we're to be real with how the things are is that anyone who's telling you they've got all the answers is not. They're full of shit, and it will be a transient experience of gratitude, very transient. I mean, it's all, any system of beliefs is going to be, you know, impermanent, but some are more shorter lived than others. And gosh, that just brings me on to these life coaches again, about like their solution for you is so perfect and you're going to pay them thousands of dollars for that certainty and training. And how long is that going to last in your world and actually integrate? Who knows? But boy, I don't think it's going to be very long. I think there's a certain lack of humility that comes from a lot of those places. A lot of promise too, and a lot of solicited promise, not even, you know, said, but like, you know, the marketing alludes that it would attract someone to believing that, and it attracts people who believe that, which I guess is their place.
And I think that might tie to that thing that when Adam describes psyche, he called it self-listening, right? And so it's not about giving the answers. It's about involving and getting curious and allowing things to unfold. So it's again, not giving those answers. It is sitting with whatever is there and allowing it to come forth, which to me is very, very different from somebody who pretends to have a lot of experience and know the answers and give you the direction. So I think that has a lot of future. Self-listening
in Psyche. We might need to do Psyche soon here, Henrik.
It will be my pleasure, absolutely. So Wyatt, beautiful man, thank you so much.
Thank you, Henrik.